that was it. That was the tipping point, and she went and took her own life. She was 19 when she died, and that was in March 2020, and that threw us and our family into absolute chaos and devastation.
It's not right. So much about this isn't right. But look, yeah, that's good.
Yeah, so they've got a 30-year, have they? Party in London.
So I'm here with Andy. Hi Andy.
Morning.
How's the walking going?
It's lovely, actually. This morning, it's
I work
perfectly smooth and flat. Grass. Just needs to be a little quiet. Hang on, folks. Can you just keep your voices down a little bit? Colin's actually trying to record it, yeah? Sorry, I'll try that again. Where do you want me to start from, Colin?
Just tell me about Sophie.
I'll go and start from that bit. And Sophie's just a lovely, lovely girl. White blonde hair when she was little, big smile. Just really chatty, really, really sociable. Grew up to be a beautiful young woman, and was just great company to be with. We spent a lot of time out on the fells locally because that's where we lived. But we did a lot of biking, running, skiing all over the place. As she grew up, she trained to be a nurse in Manchester, then got her first job in Lancaster before moving to Edinburgh, and seemed to be having a pretty good life, really. She'd been with a guy for years and recently got married. And then in the autumn of 2018, things went a bit skewy. She decided that the married life wasn't the she left him. So she was going through a bit of a crappy time in her life. Well, we were worried about her. We were worried about her being happy. That was the thing. Not being suicidal. That just didn't cross our minds. So on December the 19th, when we all got a message, well, I actually just said, I love you all so much, which wasn't unusual for people to, within our family WhatsApp group, just express love for each other, but the words weren't quite right. And when I phoned her, the phone just went to voicemail. And then before I knew it, my ex-wife Sophie's mum contacted me to say that she'd got a message to say Sophie was going to take her own life. Our world exploded or imploded or both at the same time, and then 3 days later a body was found by a member of the public who phoned in to say he'd found her, and they sat with her until the emergency services arrived. So that's how our world changed, you know, and you trundle your way through life thinking that suicide's something that happens to other people, and it's really sad, until it happens to you. And when that happens, your world changes in an instant. And that's through many conversations and quirks of fate since has led me to be sitting on the seawall of the Wash, walking with these reprobates. And looking forward to completing another 500-mile walk across the country.
So why walking?
Because we're too old to run.
What a question.
It's the most basic thing, isn't it? I mean, we started walking because we wanted to illustrate that basic suicide's the biggest killer in the UK. So, you know, how are we going to illustrate that? We live in different places. Obviously, Norfolk, you know, Cumbria and Manchester. And the obvious thing was to walk between all those places, and that just illustrates that it's UK wide.
And walking slow enough to meet people as well. So you're walking along, and as Rory said, the powerful stories that we hear on the road from either suicide survivors or those bereaved by suicide, and we've heard thousands now. Over the 3 walks, thousands.
So we've actually created this kind of a bit of a weird safe space around us, haven't we? That people have come in and they've shared their stories. And it's been a real privilege to listen to so much, haven't we?
Yeah, but there's the importance of people appreciating nature. You know, I mean, the UK is an absolutely beautiful place, you know, and you can see so many things, you know, the wildlife and everything, you know, and I mean, you're out here now, Colin, and the size of that spider that's just by your left leg. Absolutely massive. Yeah.
I'm not looking down. So how many more walks do you think there'll be?
None. I don't know.
Or are you going to do it indefinitely until you feel like you've made
I'd-
the impact you want to make?
It gives us a vehicle to keep the conversation going.
Yeah,
And every politician, every person we've met says the people that are successful keep the conversation going. So we need to keep the conversation going. We know that by putting suicide prevention into the school curriculum, putting preventative strategies in place, it will save lives.
Yes.
We've seen a very awkward subject, suicide, tackled really sensitively, really age appropriately to young children.
Yeah.
And those young children engage so much with the subject. On this walk, we've met school children several times,
Oh, yeah.
and their stories, or the way they talk to us about suicide prevention, not us talking to them.
They
and
get it.
That's because they've got forward-leaning schools.
Yes.
The problem is that not all schools are forward-leaning. So unless we get suicide prevention into the school curriculum across the country, some schools and some teachers just won't know how to tackle the problem. And we're not talking about suicide prevention just to the young people. We're talking about a whole school approach. We're talking to all the staff, so that's all the staff, including teachers,
Yeah.
the parents, and the children. And imagine a society where we've trained, the 10, 11, 12-year-olds now are trained in suicide prevention. In 10 years' time, they'll be in the workplace, and that would bleed through society, and that will save lives. We've got to get a balance in society, and the well-being of our young people has got to be more important than their education and academic
Yeah.
qualifications.
It's showing them the beauty of the outdoors as well. Everything's a balance, isn't it? But being outdoors and doing things that are good for yourself, rather than just sitting in front of a screen, I'm afraid that's it. You've got to get a balance. And maybe if we teach kids in school as well, life skills of the outdoors, how good it is for you, walking, it's got to be a positive, hasn't it?
You come out with us.
Yeah. Beth was just 17 when she took her own life on the 28th of March 2020, right at the beginning of lockdown. Beth was she's a wonderful daughter. She's growing up. She was always that little girl who used to hold my hand, sit on my shoulders. She could get away with anything really by just saying, "Dad, I love you." And she was, she had so many aspirations and ambitions. She's one of the things she wanted to do. She wanted to open her own sweetie shop, funnily. But as time went on, she developed. She wanted to be a vocal artist, and we fully supported this. When she left school, she went to college to study singing and music, and basically she was smashing it. She was absolutely brilliant. She was singing in local venues. She had and people absolutely loved what she did. She wanted to do so much. Basically she had the world at her feet, and she was the last person you'd ever expect to take her own life. And indeed, only looking back, we can maybe see there were signs that she was struggling, that we very much missed. And Betty was there 1 minute and gone the next.
How things are going.
Well, it's been interesting it's over 5 years now since we lost Sophie. And in that time, I've met loads of suicide bereaved parents, and we've met loads as we've gone along. I didn't see people react to this devastating, shattering loss in very different ways. And some people really do get stuck. But for whatever reason, right at the very start, the day that Soph's body was found, we had a conversation, my wife and I, about my son, Greta, that revolved around how the heck do we find something positive in this shitty, horrible, snotty, baneful mess, because that's the way we are. So that's how we started. It was just, that was our mentality. We didn't know what it was going to be.
I think I went on I knew I needed help after Emma died. I think I'd encountered big obstacles in my life, dangerous times in my life before, and I'd always been given support in those. But when Em died, it was off the scale. I didn't know how to cope with it. So I went to seek support, and I was looking for support from whoever would help me. One of them was Norfolk and Waveney Mind, who offered a suicide bereavement service, and then a course called the Anchor Project. By now, Mike and I were talking, weren't we? And I'm a bit of a numbers man, and I can remember, in this help-seeking time, finding a report from the Samaritans, 2017 report, about how many people had died by suicide in 2017. Seeing the figure of over 6,000, I can remember talking to Mike and going, 6,000 people die by suicide every year in the UK. That's rubbish. How are we not talking about it? And at the same time, you were doing your help seeking, weren't you? Going on Papyrus courses.
Yeah, I've got awareness stuff and whatever. It's a hell of a hole to try and get yourself out of. I was shattered. I'd gone from probably a stereotypical strong firefighter into basically a suicidal mess. But yes, you're right about trying to find some sort of positives, but as time goes on, I think you sort of refocus a bit. I certainly refocused on my family, but also doing this with these two. I mean, it seems like fate why we're together, but we absolutely believe in what we do, and the positivity that we feel as though we can change things and prevent other families going through this, the hellish aftermath of losing a loved one to suicide. That's the positivity. We drive on because that's hope in effect.
The heart of everything we do is a message of hope.
So, Tim, are you able just to tell us a little bit about Emily?
Em was, born in Norfolk, lived 9 months of her life away from Norfolk, and then we spent the rest of her life living in our village in West Norfolk. She was bouncy, bubbly, vivacious, great artist, fantastic. She was brilliant at whatever she did. I think she got the Norfolk discus throwing record or something, but she did really well in whatever she did. Just talented. But there was another side to Em that a lot of people didn't see, and that was the side of Em that struggled with life. And she'd struggled with life up until the age of 15. Really struggled sometimes. And at 15, she was diagnosed or assessed and diagnosed with high-functioning autism. And that really helped a lot of her struggles, because we knew as parents how to deal with her, and she knew how to deal with her own emotions. And from 15 to 19, everything was going in the right direction. It was all kind of, she was rebuilding her life. She got GCSE, she went to college, art college in Dereham. She then did an apprenticeship in Downham Market just for a short time to get a basic level of fitness training. And then she was working in our pub in the village, community pub, where she was the life and soul of the party, knew more people in our village than we did just because she was in the pub. And the pandemic hit, and she couldn't cope with the pandemic. All the coping mechanisms she got for cope with her autism. Going to the gym, she couldn't do that. Working in the pub, she couldn't do that. And then the straw that broke the camel's back is she wanted to go up to Hunstanton with the dog. We were coughing. We said she couldn't drive, and that was it. That was the tipping point, and she went and took her own life.
A lot of it's to do with the memory of your girls. Do you think it's shifting slightly? Have you found solace and kind of comfort, and now it's more about education?
When we did our first walk, the girls were always with us. Of course
absolutely.
They are. Yeah. But if you're carrying the stories of hundreds or thousands of bereaved people, it's not just about our girls. It's about all those people that have lost somebody. And we've heard stories today of young people that have taken their own lives. Yes. We can do something. It's too late for them, but we can do something about the youngsters of the future.
This is the thing, suicide, and historically, has been something. It is sad, and it happens to other people until it happens to you. But then it disappears within a family, and just kind of sits within this kind of silo of grief. But what we've done, and because of the nature of what we've done by walking across the country and talking to so many people.
And looking like we do.
And looking like we do, yeah.
3 athletes,
yeah. We've kind of had these conversations everywhere. And what we see is this happening in every community, everywhere. So we've got to do something about it. We've got to talk about it. We've got to keep going. So it's based on our loss of Sophie, Beth and Emily, but it's then built on this massive foundation of all these other young people that have been lost in the past, and we can build something here that will save people in the future.
Yeah, I think the grief-wise, grief changes, it never leaves, it changes. I mean, Andy always uses the phrase, you become more insulated, and that's right. But part of our walking as well, you know, we believe we can save many more lives by putting, you know, things in play like sort of education and things. But also we want to give a little hope to other bereaved parents, people bereaved by suicide, because it's so hard to go on, you know, so it comes in all different angles.
Obviously for us, we've lost our girls and there's nothing that will bring them back. But we have found that by talking about our stories and getting people engaged in what we've been through, we can then introduce them to suicide prevention charities like Papyrus, Prevention Young Suicide, and get people talking about suicide and suicide prevention, because that's how we're going to save lives.
And the simplest way of illustrating that was the first talk we ever gave, face-to-face, Keswick Mountain Festival, April 2022. We just gave a talk about our first walk from Cumbria to Manchester to Norfolk. It was only about an hour long, and at the end of it, there were loads of people talking to us. And there was one guy at the end who kind of slowly moved his way forward and came to me, looked me in the eye, and said, I came to Cumbria today to kill myself, and after hearing you talk, I can't do that anymore. And he went, we cried. I cried all the time. I'd always cry. But he cried, I cried, gave me a big hug, and he said the same to you guys, didn't he? And a few days later, he donated some money.
Yeah.
So in that moment, we caught him and we stopped him killing himself.
We hear so many stories along the way, lots obviously from bereaved parents, people touched by suicide, but the most powerful stories we hear are from those who've been in crisis, struggled, and in many cases tried to take their own lives, but are now, you know, they're living lives they want to, you know, and even several times over the last couple of weeks I've heard people saying, but I'm happy now, and because they're still here, their family and friends, their loved ones still have them, and you don't have this awful ripple effect of the grief that reaches out. And that's the hope. Sometimes it's just that chance that someone, you know, can come through and live a happy life afterwards, and that's the chance we need to take.
How much further have you got to walk today?
Well, we're on about 6, aren't we? So yeah, I mean, how many miles?
It's about 14.
Yeah, about
to decide.
14.
And you're meant to be in the
15,
outdoors?
About 16 miles.
It's more media.
Well, we better start walking then, haven't we?
Yeah, we had.
We're getting too comfy there as well.
This is lovely.
Yeah, I could lie back and have a doze.
Oh, thank you.
Hello, Timo. No,